welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight and an honor always to have with us our good friend, Dr. Alex McFarland, and we're going to talk to him about a variety of things, and I tell you what, you need to keep close contact with him because he's the best. Hi, Alex. How you doing, buddy?
Well, Perry, I'm humbled. You're so kind. It's great to be with you. On behalf of North Carolinians everywhere, we're grieving today about that beating the Broncos gave us in the Super Bowl last night.
You'll get over it.
Yeah, it's just a game. It's just a game.
You know what's interesting about that game? There was no successful play. Every play was thwarted in one way or another. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, you know what? I went early this morning. I met a pastor for breakfast at a little restaurant. And you got to understand, there are people here that are grieving. I mean, their whole world is unraveling. And I was thinking, I'm so happy that for the Christian, you know, we've got things that nothing in this world can take away. We've got Christ. Our name is in his book. If you're a believer, you've got a home in heaven. And, you know, I just feel for the people for whom something like a sports championship or a Super Bowl is their whole life, because that's what are you going to do when that's gone?
Yeah. Well, listen, I want to say to our viewers and listeners, alexmcfarland.com is Alex's website, alexmcfarland.com. And he has a lot of resources there. Go there and take advantage of that. And still waiting for a group of people somewhere in Oregon to come together, and let's bring Alex out for a couple of sessions. But in the meantime, let's talk about a subject, Alex, that is really on the minds of a lot of people, and that is faith and millennials. And what's so interesting about this is it seems to be the moving target. People are moving all over the place, trying to chase the millennials to get them to come to Christ. And from what I understand, now you correct me if I'm wrong, some could care less, and some want to believe, but they don't want to do it the traditional Christian way. Can you explain that?
Well, great question, and thanks for tackling this topic, because, you know, every generation has the responsibility to pass the faith on to the people coming up, the young people. And it's been much discussed for the last, 10, 12, 15 years. Are we handing the baton adequately to the next generation of runners? And here we are in 2016, 21st century, and there's like 1 out of 5 millennials and younger that claim not to believe in God. Now, millennials are 20-somethings and younger. Plurals are those 15, 16 and younger. They've never lived in an America that wasn't very pluralistic. I've got volumes of research we could talk about, Perry, but let me cut to the chase. The number one thing that young people want to see is authenticity in the lives of their Christian leaders. And I will tell you, kind of my age, middle age and older, we have had an America where Christianity had home court advantage. And as a result, many of we, grown-ups have lived kind of fragmented lives. We are Christians on Sunday, Monday through Saturday. It's a little bit on again, off again. Millennials, they don't want to see that. They want something worth living for. They want something that is real. So the number one thing is they want authenticity in the lives of their leaders. Now, there's more we can talk about, but I want to throw that out there first. Authenticity.
Suggesting they don't see it. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say that they're not completely seeing it. I do think that they have to really acknowledge, look, there might be some frauds, there might be some hypocrisy, but there are also millions and millions of incredibly dedicated people that love the Lord, love this country, have served others for many, many years. But the fragmented worldview, and really, Perry, this gives us a great opportunity. This gives us a great opportunity to show what authenticity looks like, and not only a real, genuine relationship with Christ, but that the biblical worldview is comprehensive. We do have the answers to origin, purpose, destiny. Where did we come from? Why are we here? Where are we headed? My friend Del Tackett, who created the Truth Project, he loves to say, look in any direction, 360 degrees, and in any direction you look, God has spoken. And so we have the opportunity to show people that the Christian worldview really is comprehensive. It talks about vocation and career. It talks about marriage and family. It talks about knowledge. It talks about the state of the soul. And so there are a lot of authentic Christians, but what we have is an opportunity to talk to a generation about a worldview that really does give you a path for living.
Okay. Again, we're dealing with a generation that has grown up with impact, or has grown up with an influence greater than any other generation. Movies, music, television. The digital world is huge, absolutely huge. Social media. So they don't look to people for answers, they look to their devices for answers. And one of the things that falls through the cracks is relationships. So how can you have an authentic relationship when they're not even turning to people for an answer?
Well, do you know, that is a great question. In fact, of the plurals, and some of the late plurals, early millennials, I mean, they're what sociologists call digital natives. They've never known a world without mobile devices, internet. So I would say to all churches, you must harness the power of the internet. Perry, I'm aghast at churches where I speak. It's rare, but I mean, there are still churches of size. I'm talking 400, 500, 600 people on Sunday morning that don't have a website, or they don't have an adequate website. Look, in your church, in your church's overall budget, and especially within your ministry to youth and college students, you need to budget adequate amounts of money for IT and web. And I mean, you need good web. And maybe within your church, there are people that do this, but this is not the season of ministry to not harness the power of the internet. And by that, I mean mobile devices as well. A second thought, though, is in our discipleship, we need to understand stewardship. And Jesus owns all of our life, even our time. And we need to challenge our people to have sometimes a media fast, just like we would fast from food, just like we would fast from a lot of things, to challenge for the purpose of cultivating authentic interpersonal relationships, that we're going to spend a certain amount of time every day offline. We got to disconnect so we can meaningfully interact with our spouse, our families, with our friends. And this is not easy. But that's why it's discipleship, because part of the disciples' calling is to do things that actually cost something. And so I want to challenge your church, as much as we harness the power of the internet, that we understand a part of our life must be dedicated to disconnecting so that we can connect with God and others. One other thing, let me interject this as well, that churches have you've got to minister to people that are often neglected, and that's the post-high school, pre-married. After high school, but not yet married. And more than just a college Sunday school class. I mean, if you've got a Sunday school class for college kids, that is not a significant enough ministry for the 20-somethings. So many, and by the way, Perry, I'm doing research for a book right now. It'll be my 16th book for Focus on the Family on Millennials. And if there's one thing I've heard in the last 6 months, it's that after high school, churches really don't care till you're married with kids. And that 20-something demographic, maybe they've got student loan, they're not big tithers yet. But look, we invest in people all the time that really can't appreciably give back a lot. So I want to challenge churches, dedicate a staff member to it or put together a committee, minister to these college kids or 20-something, groping, searching, not yet launched. They're not going to be huge givers, but they can be huge contributors by the fact that they reach their friends. And that's a demographic we just haven't really invested in as much as we should have.
Okay, I want to come back to that, and when we do, part of this argument is what I'm sensing is that millennials, or at least maybe I should say from post-high school up to the time they get married, they have no problem in believing, but they may not want to change or understand conviction. And I want you to respond to that. We'll be right back with our good friend, Dr. Alex McFarland. By the way, go to his website, alexmcfarland.com, and check out all of his books and resources. We'll be right back.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Okay, we're back, and we're continuing on with our good friend, Dr. Alex McFarland, and he's one of the great apologists of our day. And I want to encourage you to go to alexmcfarland.com and check out his website and the many books that he has written, and all the resources that you'll find there. Support his ministry, and let's get him out to Oregon as soon as we can one of these days. Alex, we're dealing with millennials, and this is an incredible topic because I don't know, it would probably take us about 3 days to deal with it, and especially if you're writing a book about it. But what I have sensed and found is that millennials are okay with believing in Jesus, but maybe not without changing or conviction. They just want to believe and go on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we've got to understand that 20-somethings and younger are several generations of people steeped in relativism. You know, maybe they came up through the public schools, and certainly they've imbibed thousands of hours of media, and it's just been drilled into them that truth is relative. Morality is relative. Not only have they come up in a culture that basically denies moral boundaries, moral absolutes, but we've watched leaders, you know, from the last years of the Clinton administration up through even, Hillary Clinton's candidacy right now. There have been lies, documented lies. There have been pragmatism and opportunism. This is a generation that's been told there are no moral boundaries. Life is not sacred. If there's an unplanned pregnancy, we can abort, and we can have sex before marriage, and maybe not even live together with the benefit of marriage. After 6,000 years of human history, 2,000 years of Western civilization, 250 years of America, we were just told last June by the U.S. Supreme Court that marriage is fluid and can be redefined. So, I mean, just think about this. Even the kids who come to Christ, but yet they're a little bit in the gray on morality, their whole life, by their classroom curriculum and by many prominent leaders, and even by our national practice, it's been drilled into them that morality is whatever I want it to be. Now, the obvious antidote to that in a Christian sense is the authority of the Bible. We don't live by the whim of man, we live by the word of God. But Perry, I believe how we drill that in, I know this is going to sound simplistic, and there's great books, great leaders, and we need to avail ourselves to the resources God has raised up. Here's the deal. Think of a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid is behavior, the things that we outwardly see. Now, behavior is driven by beliefs and convictions. Belief is what I think is true. Conviction is what I think is important. So we've got convictions, beliefs, behavior. The foundation on which all of this rests are relationships. If you want to shape convictions, what's important? That will drive beliefs, what is true. That will influence behavior, how I live. Pastors, parents, friends, colleagues, church members, it's all shaped and informed by relationship. And relationships are spelled T-I-M-E. It's not easy, but it's pretty simple.
Wow. All right. Now, are churches changing to win the millennials when in fact they really don't know who they are?
Maybe. I think maybe just to have one song on Sunday morning that's performed by a guy strumming a guitar, and we think that maybe we've, adequately addressed their musical taste. That's not really sufficient. I will challenge churches. And look, there's the old saying, Perry, we know what we like and we like what we know. Hey, I grew up in the South on the old hymn book and Victory in Jesus, and I love that. But the organ and the piano is not exactly where a lot of kids are in their musical taste. And I think what we've got to do without compromising convictions, we're not compromising truth, but we have to, in our approach to worship, show young people that we're culturally relevant, culturally engaged. Now, I'm not saying that we have to completely reinvent our Sunday morning worship service. That's only one part of it. But however God leads you, or however God leads your church, we talked about the internet, we talked about media, IT. We need to talk about relevancy in terms of our worship style and in terms of showing the culture that we are, at least aware it is the 21st century. I want to challenge churches, and I'm in more than 100 different churches a year throughout, roughly half of the states. I was in 21 states last year. The condition of our buildings. I mean, this is a generation that's been raised in relativism, but they've also been raised in consumerism. And you look at Starbucks or Caribou Coffee or Seattle's Best, and you look at the Apple Store and you look at Barnes & Noble, retailers know that if you're going to get customer traffic and customer loyalty, you've got to give them an excellent experience. From the smiling face at the counter to the well-kept amenities. And some of our churches are just, it looks like, hey, 1971 called and they want their decor back. And look, we might bristly say, well, I preach the gospel and, we represent Jesus, period. Yes, we do. But do you remember the New Testament says that we are to adorn the gospel of our God? That word adorn in the original language is the word garnish. We're to, set the table in an appealing way. And that's our music, our worship style, the smiling faces that meet us in the parking lot. I mean, if you look at the churches that are doing it, it's not about how we've always done things. It's about what can we always do. We're always pursuing that zone of effectiveness to build relationships, to share the message. And I want to say this, Perry, and here's a core value of ours at our ministry and all that we're doing. Life-on-life transference. Think about that. Life-on-life transference. That's how discipleship happens. And we've got to posture our churches and everything to create a context for life-on-life transference.
Do millennials sense a need for God?
Absolutely. The millennials are spiritually hungry. Just Thursday, I was in 2 different high schools in one day. And, I talk to high school kids the same way I teach graduate students at universities. And they will get it. They care about God. They care about spiritual issues, but they want authenticity, they want instruction, and they want continuity. They want leaders that are for real. They want to hear something that they didn't already know, and they want consistency. And again, that's going to take time, that's going to take investment, but this is a generation that is profoundly spiritually hungry, and they are open.
There seems to be a real interesting twist on where they're showing up in some of these campaigns, and I don't want to go too political here, but when you look at the various candidates and who they're drawing in, it's pretty interesting. And if you go on the left side, Bernie is just attracting a lot of them. And when they're asked what is a socialist, they don't know, but they like what he's saying. So are they deep thinkers or not?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Young people, they grew up in sound bites. And so I will say they are not, it's not that they don't have the capacity to be deep thinkers, but it's that they've never really deeply probed these issues. And let me just say this now, listen carefully, everybody. Here's Bernie Sanders, an old guy who he has zero fashion sense, and yet young people, even Christian young people, seem to like him. Roughly 30% of those under 25 don't have a problem that he's a socialist, and that is a problem. But here's the deal. Think about the last 20 years. They believe capitalism has failed them. I honestly believe capitalism and personal responsibility is a wonderful thing. It is the economic system that's associated with Christianity. If you want to take the Christian worldview and create an economic model, you will create capitalism, which gives opportunity for success, personal accountability. There's got to be some hard work. So what's really tenuous for this nation is that they would like a Bernie Sanders, who is a socialist, anti-American, certainly anti-Christian. They would entertain a Hillary Clinton, who is a pro-abortion, anti-U.S. Constitution candidate. So, and also these kids, Lord help us, have been told by some pastors, well, the church doesn't speak about political issues. My goodness, the church must speak about political issues. So we have a generation that they don't know a stable two-parent mom and dad family. They're hungry for relationships because we're humans. We're made for relationship. They're hungry for truth, and they're spiritually open. So we Christians, and let me say pastors watching, get brave. Talk about the hard issues from your pulpit, because you know the three groups that we've done surveys with Focus on the Family through our Truth for New Generation and Big Dig events. We've surveyed thousands of young people over the past 15 years. The number one voice that they listen to is mom and dad. Number three voice is their peers. The number two voice, right behind mom and dad, that teens and 20-somethings listen to are clergy. Isn't that something? They really, if there's a clergy person in their life, they will listen. So my goodness, why would we not speak to the issues of the day, even if it's a little bit out of our comfort zone to speak to those issues?
Excellent. Well, I know that you're pretty passionate about this, and your ministry is now focusing on this. Tell us about your Stand Strong tour.
Oh, well, thanks, Perry. Well, we're traveling the country. I mean, at my heart, I'm an evangelist. I'm on my way to heaven. I want to take as many people with me as I possibly can. But secondly, worldview and apologetics. And whether it's a Q&A at a college, whether it's doing a seminar at a church, whether it's doing a debate with an atheist on a media interview, what we're trying to do is influence the thinking of people that God is real. The Christian faith is true and authentic. Compelling lines of evidence show this. So on the Christian side, I'm an evangelist apologist, but I'm a patriot, Perry. I love America. I've been to 5 continents, and I've seen how people live that don't have a representative republic and a Christian culture. So I want to see this nation shore up its Christian moorings, because I really think our U.S. Constitution stands in danger if we don't. You mentioned coming to Oregon. I've got 2 invitations right now for citywide events that we're doing in both Arizona and Mississippi. I'm a guy, we will unite your churches. We will work with leaders. Call me. The website, alexmcfarland.com. I would love to talk with your leaders, whoever you are, about doing a thing that will touch your community, unite your churches, get on the university campus, and let's take the name of Jesus and the message of the Bible back to all communities, and the communities of Oregon as well.
Just had an article come out, Alex, that showed that Portland is the atheist U.S. capital.
Well, you know, the upper Northwest is one of the regions that has been most in need of being reached. In recent years, with the Billy Graham Ministry, Luis Palau, Campus Crusade, a number of organizations that we interface with, the 2 big areas, if you want to pray, is the upper Northeast, New England, and the upper Northwest, Seattle, Portland, even Sacramento, Idaho, up in there. And that's why, I could spend the next 20 years of ministry just doing things to equip the church and persuade the lost up in the upper Northeast. So I would love to talk with any of your viewers or listeners about bringing the gospel and empowering the church in the upper Northwest.
Thank you, buddy. You're a delight. By the way, alexmcfarland.com, alexmcfarland.com. Check it out. Check out his books. And if you want to correspond with him, you can do it there. Look forward to your book, but we got plenty of conversations between now and then.
God bless you, Perry. Thank you so much. It's always an honor to be on the Dove.
God bless you, pal. We'll be right back.